Three. Oh,
We're live.
we're live.
Yeah.
It says live on your end, but it doesn't say live on mine.
We're
It's
live.
lying to me. So I gotta wait a few minutes, which I always edit. I always edit this out of the clips because I get annoyed by the delay of what just happened. I gotta hear it again. See,
Here
they're right
again.
again. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, John Henry Soto here, JHS and BreakTime, and today is Music Makers. This is our Tuesday night conversation that we always have on different subjects and different uh, music-related issues, and
Ah.
sometimes we'll talk about guitar players, we'll talk
Ooh.
about drumming, we'll talk about being in a band, we talk about trying to get music out there, and today we're gonna change it up a bit. We're gonna be talking about different artists that kind of in some point in their life decided to make a different direction, a different change in sound. Some of them even change in musical genres, and how did that play out for them? And it was a subject that Tommy brought up at in our last meeting and our last whatever we did, and it was just really interesting to
Ah.
kind of like think, oh yeah, that is an interesting subject. We should probably riff on it a little bit and see what we can come up with.
Riff.
So riff, let's riff.
Pull out of our behinds, in other words.
Yeah, something about behinds and like and laxatives. I don't know, Tommy.
I mean, I would have said the
You
other
need,
word, but that's a no word. So,
you need,
trying to keep it PG.
all right, so let's let's try to
Getting off of
try
that.
to stick with the program. So so Sean, I'm going to start with you because you were the one that kind of initiated this topic last week. What do
Ah.
you think about that when an artist decides? I personally like it when an artist does something completely different, but I think that's because I like to do different things. You know what I mean? Like last week I was doing something, and today I'm wearing a fucking cowboy hat. So like I'm just like not a. I like to do different things where people are like, "Wait, what is he doing
Yeah.
now? Why is he doing this now?" You know, I'd much rather have that than people be like, "Oh yeah, that's what he does." You know what I mean? So I kind of like that element of when an artist decides to take that risk. What are your thoughts on that?
Um. Well, I agree with you, John, for the most part. Um, because as artists, we understand how other artists can kind of box themselves in sometimes, and we all really are. We are creatures of habit, and changing things up really brings a renewed energy to what we're doing, keeping interest in what really drives us, our passion. And it's great, but it depends on the execution uh, overall, because sometimes that change in direction is not received as well as it was originally thought out. Um, yeah, as it was thought out to be. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I'm sure you're going to go into it, John. The When Bob Dylan went electric, he had a totally different view as how onto how it would go. Thank you for that, Tommy.
I mean,
Um,
at least cool. That's what it was. But anyway.
Bob probably thought that it went really well, and I actually have a new perspective on it myself. I think that it did actually go well. Um, Also with the connection to the band, and that was a great little tidbit I didn't know about. I did a little research on it a couple days ago.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the band was a big part of
but
his early sound.
it really depends on how the artist communicates with their audience with regards to their change in sound, because if it's something drastic, it can alienate a part of the audience because they won't understand.
Right.
um,
Oh boy.
it it some things can get bland too in terms of like arrangement if we're gonna get into the thick of it, like how certain songs are arranged by the artists in their own style.
Right.
uh it it's a lot of different uh, parts to it. Like we can talk about like different arrangements. Like I listened to uh, James Taylor's most recent album. It was released on February 28th of this year. It was called American Standard, and it was a tribute album to a lot of the jazz artists throughout the decades, and it was a lot of songs that they had made famous, so not lesser known songs, and it was kept to a tight arrangement. There was not a lot of different variation going on, so it sounded very assembly line like instead of like natural. But James Taylor, James Taylor's James Taylor, so at least with the voice you can identify with it. But
Right.
your ears can tune themselves out, because I found myself tuning out maybe like 50% like through the album. I listened all the way through, but
Mm,
I lost interest. So
interesting.
it's great, but it depends on the execution, is what I'm getting at, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the artist has to make a choice. And it always has to, if it comes from a very, and I'm sure James Taylor had the greatest intention on putting it together, integrity wise, and also, um, his sincerity behind it. I'm sure that was pure, but sometimes if you're not focused enough on the actual, um, probably the actual arrangement, like you were talking about, the actual presentation of that, where you think you're going to go out and you're just going to do that song the way that song is done. I mean, I guess another example is sort of the Bob Dylan, you know, Watchtower song, where Hendrix took it and did something completely different with it and really made it his song. You know what I mean? And he took it, and Hendrix loved Bob Dylan, like he just adored him. You know what I mean? Like it was like
Mhm.
he saw a lot of, because Bob didn't have the strongest voice, right? He didn't have this. He had more of a storytelling voice, even though he sang, but it wasn't like this sang. And Hendrix really admired that, and so he really took to his songs, and he took that song and really made it something completely different. And I think one of my favorite Hendrix songs is All Along the Watchtower, and I think it's definitely a testament to somebody saying, "I'm gonna do this song, but I'm gonna spice it up a little bit. I'm gonna change it up," and then that
Waxy
risk can
meatball.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
and that risk can be dangerous, because you can't go back, especially when you're an established artist and you put that record out. You can't be like, you know what? Can I take that back? I want to just
Uh,
realize what you're done. Once you commit.
you're
So I personally, like I said, I liked the Bob Dylan when he went electric. I think because he was affiliated with the band, and the band is a very electric band. Um, all those guys, Levon and Bobby, they all had like this rawness to them that he had in his acoustic rawness. So when you put those guys together, they just had this one thing. And I think the audience, and you're right, they're just accustomed to seeing Bob Dylan with an acoustic guitar and a harmonica on his neck, singing, blowing in the wind and stuff. And it's just, he's like, he's an artist, he's like, I want to create something different.
Yeah,
So
that's kind
I
of
think,
like the natural disconnect between the listening audience and the artist, because as an artist, comfort is like your biggest enemy. If you're getting comfortable, you're gonna get bored,
right,
and you're gonna lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing.
right,
But the listening audience, that there's a lot of pleasure that they take from the comfort of knowing, oh, that's Bob. He's got his guitar. He's got his harmonica. I'm gonna be
right,
safe. That's what he does. That's like his
right.
thing.
And that's what I was going to say also, on the perspective of the audience. Can you imagine an audience going to see Bob Dylan expecting Bob with his guitar, acoustic and his harmonica, and coming out and blazing with this electric guitar? They probably were just pissed off because they're like, I can't even hear him. And so, because they were used to this other sound. So I guess there is some kind of consideration you should take on the audience. But I don't see Bob Dylan really ever really caring much. Not that he doesn't like his audience or the people that follow him, but I think the reason they followed him was because he didn't care.
Yeah,
He
he's
just wanted to create.
unapologetically him.
He was very exactly, and he just did what he wanted to do. Joey, as do you have any one coming from a drumming side, there's a lot of room for like artists that have kind of taken a different turn because the drumming and the beat of the music and whatever changes, drastically if an artist decides to take it a different direction. Do you have any artists that you might think of that you thought they were in this band and they were kind of this sound, and then they came to this band and then they were kind of this sound? I mean, there's a lot of drummers, right? Session drummers that can kind of do the whole spectrum. I could think of what's his name? What's his name? Vinny Kaluga. Forgot his
Vinny
name.
Vinny Colaiuta.
Kaluga, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's drummers like that then that could actually just do that constantly, for through their whole career and just jump around from like he's one of those. He can play with anybody. Steve Gadd is another one, and those kind of guys. Um, as a drummer, what's your perspective on that?
If you're looking for like examples, I have like a couple that I could think off the top of my head. Like for instance, Chicago, the band. I know they started out with the drummer Danny Serafine, and they went for more of that jazz rock vibe in their early work. Then going up to the early '80s, I think. Yeah, like 70. I think started from like 70. I think it was 76. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it was going up from the mid 70s to the early 80s, and then I think something happened with I think like a little whatchamacallit, like a little personal conflict happened within the band, which kind of caused Daniel to leave, and then they brought in a new guy. But then after that, like their sound totally changed. So they went for more of that, like I guess like
rock,
rock
just like
normal 80s like arena rock sound.
Yeah, it was like
I mean, both sounds are like
band.
both sounds are good though. They each signify the time that they were playing, and then the other group I could think of is Mute Math, because they had a very specific like change when they were going into their later work, because before that, I'd say like in the early 2000s, they were more of like an experimental alternative rock group, like rock and roll. Like they were more like heavy. They had more like they had synth work, but it was more like used sparingly. But I think in like their later work, the lead singer wanted to Paul Meany. He wanted to go more electronic and more like new wavy sounding like. So yeah, that definitely changed like the overall sound of the band.
Yeah.
And I don't know if like I think a short time after that, the original bassist and drummer left. So I don't know if that like caused any like particular, like heated thing in the band or something. But yeah, it's not specified, but
so Joey, I actually have a quick question. I guess, can you compare the audience reaction to like Chicago's change in sound to Mute Math's? Like, did their fan base, did they have different reactions based on the two bands? Like anything perceptible?
Well, I think probably with Chicago's audience, it was definitely more noticeable. I think like a lot of the true like diehard like fans of the early sound, obviously they kind of got a little disappointed. But I mean, everyone still loved like their sound, like they still had like a great sound. Mute Math, on the other hand, like they still retain their fan base. I feel like their fans are more like loyal to whatever they put out. So I mean, it depends on like what kind of band and like what kind of fan base like they have.
I was gonna say also with a band like Chicago, their horn section really made such an impact on that band that that never really changed till this day. You know what I mean? There's it's still that same horn section, that just has that powerful, I saw the documentary. I don't know if you saw it. I think there's one on Netflix on the history of Chicago. Really, really awesome. I love documentaries about bands because you always get to see the early footage and see what the hell's going on. Yeah. And I
Access
saw,
TV.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And I saw that documentary, and the horn section. They wanted to be I think one of them said they wanted to be like the American Beatles, but with horns. Or
Yeah,
that kind of.
they were influenced by Paul McCartney with "Got to Get You Into My Life." They
Yeah,
just were obsessed with that, and they wanted to make their sound like exactly like
yeah,
off
yeah.
of like
And
that Revolver with
they
that
have
horn
some
section.
great songs. I mean, 25 or 624, whatever that song is. Such a freaking great song. And no matter what, just a great song, great solo in there. It's just really a powerful song.
Definitely
And then
was.
in the 80s, I mean, it's funny because I remember the 70s with this band, and then for some reason in my mind, I forgot in the 80s that it was Chicago, like that did all that stuff in the 70s, and then in the 80s, I just remembered them as like this pop band, and for some reason, and all like a ballad band, I am a man who will fight for you, and for me, it was like, okay, it was just these nice big giant rock pop ballad songs, and it was fine. I didn't have, but then later on, I realized I was like, well, wait a minute, this is Chicago. They were like, they had a completely kind of a different thing, but you're right. They didn't really, it changed, but the fan base always remained loyal because, and I think it's because they had that horn section and that rhythm section that just really kept it consistent, and consistency is always going to be the great. I mean, I was just thinking as you were talking about, going all these generations, and you look at like somebody like Tony Bennett. I mean, he's never changed genres. He's never changed his style. He's gone on stage with a suit for what 60, 70 years now, whatever it is, and he's been successful every single year. Every time he puts out a record, every show he puts out, and that consistency it's also like an incredible thing, so it's, you can talk about Elvis. We could talk about Elvis's evolution from before the war and when he came back and the 68 comeback concert and all that stuff.
Comeback,
Who he came back as,
gospel albums.
yeah, yeah, I mean, he was definitely in my house. My mom was an obsessive Elvis fan, yeah, like
That's
obsessive.
all right, Mama.
Yeah, that was all right, mama. And
Oh yeah.
so I got to watch a lot of those films. And then when VHS came out, and you can go to the and get like these old films. We saw films that were really, really just horrible films. You know what I mean? But it was just, Elvis now is a cook, but he can sing. Elvis is a
He's a
driver,
singing
a
cook.
race car driver, but he can sing.
He's a
He's
singing
he's
race
he's
car.
all these jobs and stuff, but he's a great singer. And then there's a girl, and then he upsets the girl for a little bit, and then at the end he gets the girl.
He
And that was
got a
the
few good
whole
soundtrack
premise.
songs.
35 films that way. No, there's 35 films on there, baby. That's right, uh-huh. And
Love me some a little less conversation, rubberneck and trouble.
that's such a great song. Little conversation. I mean, that's such a great song. All those songs are like Scotty Moore and all those guys. Man, those guys were fantastic. All right, so back to what the hell we were talking about. Well, I guess we were still on the same subject. Tommy, I'm going to you now because I'm gonna bother you with guitar players.
Hey,
Um, guitar sounds, like guitar player. Like there was one thing, and I'll tell you that
yes, thanks,
when
Sean.
I was younger, I didn't appreciate as much when I saw Hendrix with an acoustic guitar. He's got like a couple of very intimate videos that I've seen of him where he's just sitting on the guitar and
Yeah.
and he's singing these like really bluesy songs on an acoustic guitar. And I remember as a kid, I was like, man, I didn't like it. Now I'm like, I love it because I just appreciate it more.
Yeah.
But back then I didn't feel. Was there guitars for you? Like, was there any guitar player that you felt that changed to a different sound or did something differently that upset you, or maybe you loved it more?
Well, I mean, like not too long ago, I was listening to John Fogerty, and
Ah.
like a lot of John Fogerty, like his guitar playing and stuff. And there was one album, and this was after Credence, that it was basically like a whole country album where I think it was mostly, if I remember right, it was mostly acoustic guitar that he was
Mm.
playing on that majority of the album, and it was actually not really that bad, honestly. I kind of liked it because, in fact, I might actually cover one of the songs off of it eventually for a maybe for a song Saturday. But anyway, um, it's actually all covers of country songs. May I add? But again, it was interesting because listening to all of Credence's stuff and then his solo stuff, some of his solo stuff, that was one that captured my attention a lot, and that's why I guess kind of got into the country vibe a little bit with the like rockabilly kind of side of things.
Yeah.
And I got more into all that country rockabilly, stuff. And and then there was another song at least that I've heard from John Fogerty. It wasn't an entire album, but there was like one song that I've heard also that just is pretty much a straight up punk song. Like if you listen to it.
Really?
Like it's insane. Like, but it still sounds like him in a way, but it's got like a punkish element to it. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the same guy. Like what's going on here? But I mean, again, I liked it, but I don't know what anybody else thought of it. But
Uh,
Right.
that's like a
so
example that I
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
But
What was that,
so
John?
so John, I'll you can respond to that, and then I have a follow up with regards to what Tommy said.
No, why don't you go first?
what do you got?
I was just gonna say that Fogerty is awesome. That's all I was gonna say.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, he's
Finish.
fantastic.
So there's a commonality between the approaches of answering these questions between Tommy and me here. We both went to uh, tribute albums to discuss like changes in direction. Now,
Hmm.
focusing on tribute albums, I think it's very interesting to get into how much they may pay tribute to the actual songs and do justice to them. Like the difference between that and making an ambitious new arrangement out of it when it comes to tribute albums, because they're a whole different monster upon themselves,
Hmm.
compared to just going out and creating new original stuff. So, Tommy, how ambitious were the arrangements on those on that album, that solo John Fogerty album?
The which one? The country album, right?
Was there anything out of the blue that would not like ordinarily be put on a country album, like instrumentation or
From what I remember, I
something,
don't think there was
production
anything
techniques?
really out of yeah. There was really nothing out of the blue. I mean, it pretty much sounded, you know, country. Like not like modern country, obviously, but like old school country. But it yeah, it pretty much sounded like country from what I remember when I heard it. Um, but yeah,
Okay,
it's country.
so if
But it, you know,
so if you put that next to uh, Paul McCartney's 1990s album Run Devil Run, that you describe that as more ambitious because there are three original songs on there, but there are covers of songs by Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Gene Vincent, Ricky Nelson. Paul is paying tribute and going back to his roots, but there's different production techniques, more modernized production techniques, and the guitar tones were raised like into overdrive,
let's
taken
just
into
say
overdrive,
Run.
Yeah.
and
Let's just say
like,
because Run Devil Run,
how do you
yeah.
compare that?
The,
Yeah.
the guitar tones like were completely different, and like it wasn't like some 50s, 60s, one or whenever the songs on the album came out. It was very different from those versions because again, the guitar tone was just like extremely, extremely heavy. Like for example, he did "All Shook Up" on that album. Not only was the guitar tone,
Oh, shook up.
not only was the guitar tone different, but from what I remember hearing of it, it did sound like I don't want to say necessarily the drum pattern, but the rhythm seemed a lot different than like it was like more like a rock kind of style drumming. It wasn't like a rockabilly-ish esque kind of rhythm. It was like completely different, but I feel like he still did some kind of justice to it because again, he took the song and made it his own in that sense, but still keeping, the Elvisy kind of, you know, vocal.
Yeah, that album, he was just he just went at like an approach to it was like reckless abandon, and
Yeah.
specifically with All Shook Up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it just went.
The way that he sung that, like he threw like all vocal technique like out the window and
Yeah.
made Elvis sound like Perry Como was singing
Yeah.
that song.
But
Like
he's
he
got a
went for.
tremendous voice. That's another thing.
You
He's
know
a
what?
very
At
distinctive
least he made it his own.
voice.
But because not only I feel like you have to do justice to the song, but if you show a little bit like of your own take on the song, it might, a lot of the times it might work, depending on
Yeah.
what approach you take to do it, and hopefully the right approach to do it. But like again, like Paul did with All Shook Up, but
Yeah, I think so Sean, you were mentioning the Paul McCartney album. So do you because I mean Paul McCartney is a studio god, right? Like he will sit there and if he finds one sound that like is interesting, he's gonna like really go into that sound and he wants to
Go to the
explore the
extreme
studio.
with it.
which leads
Yeah, I
to where
mean
we
he's
are
been doing
today.
it for so long and he did it with equipment that was very, very limited in the with all those records, all of them with George and stuff and all those and Martin and all those guys, they all just got in a room and did things that a lot of people were not doing. They were just innovative. That's why they got off the road. They just wanted to go in the studio and come up with things like Sergeant Pepper and these crazy, crazy sounds and
Mhm.
things and that the people just did not have. So it doesn't surprise me that he would take a song and really add a little bit of a creative studio stuff that you can't buy on Amazon or download it or anywhere. Um, so did you appreciate that more, or was it something that you had to kind of get used to?
Um, well, as a lifelong Beatles fan, I was a little bit more accepting to it. It was a jolt to the system in the beginning, listening to it,
Yeah,
but it wasn't as much of a jolt as well. Actually, it was a welcome jolt compared to what I had experienced listening to American Standard because I listened to them side by side. I was already a little bit familiar with Run Devil Run, but
mm,
I listened to the album side by side last night, and obviously they're two different genres, but there was more interesting stuff going on, more risks being taken on Run Devil Run than there was
right.
with American Standard, because Paul had actually, starting from the song selection, he chose songs that were lesser known and like in these catalogs of artists that he was covering. And then he decides to add. Did he add a bagpipe to one of the songs?
Uh,
No, accordion to a Chuck Berry song that he was covering, "Brown Eyed Handsome Man."
Really?
so
I
so,
believe
but
it.
he made
Didn't hear the whole thing.
very unique like instrument
Yeah,
choices in these
yeah,
things like on that album that you really they're really out of left field. And
yeah,
so the, I get I was more hooked uh, as a result because I wanted to listen through to the full album. I felt like I was just listening to American Standard,
mm,
because I have to listen to this so I can talk about this and put this in context. But Run Devil Run, I was just enjoying it.
Right. See, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think some of the groups that I've grew up listening to stayed pretty consistent as far as their sound is and their genres. Individual artists always kind of take different risks, risks, but that's a little bit. I mean, I think a weird thing is I remember, like, I grew up, in a Spanish household, right? So I remember Ricky Martin as a little kid, and he was in the group called Menudo, and they would sing. They were very famous. I mean, hugely famous. They were like a boy band, and they went all over the world. It was Spanish. Nobody in America knew who they were. English speaking
Habla
people.
inglés.
And so it was funny when he came to, like, he did that presentation at one of those event shows. He did the soccer song that they had it for the World Cup or something, and he did this big presentation, which was nobody knew who he was. He just opened the show, so you could see that it was kind of a preparation. It was like, let's launch this guy. And then the next day, the world was his, right? He was the biggest star in America, and all that. But I knew him, so people were kind of like saying, oh, it's this new guy. And I was like, he ain't. And look at this picture, he's 12 years old singing about his little teen girlfriend. So you know somebody like that did such a drastic change, where he did go from the boy band, then he went to a solo career, Spanish only, then he went into this English monster, then he kind of went back again to Spanish and recorded a full Spanish album. And this, he's for me, I'm impressed by the fact that he's able to do that. He's just very, very open to being able to do those kind of genres and stuff, but yet he stays kind of the same. So my point is, like, there's artists that can still do anything, whatever kind of genre, but you always know it's them. I'll say he's one of them, and I also think of Sting. Like, I saw Sting singing a Stevie Wonder song, and it was like perfect. It was like Sting could have wrote this and put it out. You know what I mean? You just didn't really. He didn't go into this R&B black thing. You know what I mean? It was just Sting. You know what I mean? And it
We've
was
got
like,
a Sting
Sting.
aficionado
yeah.
in our midst here with Hungry Drummer Joey.
Oh, really? Oh, you're a Sting fan?
More of
Joey
a
could provide
police
a lot
fan.
of
I'm not.
context.
I'm not too into Sting himself. He's a little bit of a hard guy to work with, but I respect his talent at least.
Like
He's a
Joey's work with
talented guy. Yeah, I
So you
respect
like
more
the
Stewart and Andy from the band, but
yeah,
Sting
those
is a
guys
little.
were amazing talents too. But one thing that Sting does know is how to pick a drummer, because he's had some of the best drummers on earth, and he's always said, you surround yourself with the best people, and it just makes your job easier. And the Police, um, the Police is that's that's such an incredible band, but they managed to fuse a bunch of different sounds, where they kind of came out of that punk era, but it wasn't really punk. It was the Police, but they were kind of like born in that weird era
Well, they
of
were
early
fusing it with
70s
reggae and new wave also,
reggae.
so it kind of had that
Yeah,
like. Yeah, but
yeah,
their
and
first album was mostly punk. Outlandos Tia Amore.
right.
That was
That was
probably
like,
their rawest sound.
yeah, and then afterwards what album was it that the big pop, the big famous songs came out? Was that their
We're talking about
third album?
Synchronicity.
Yeah, was
The
Synchronicity?
Synchronicity. There's also Zendata Mondea.
Yeah, was that the third album, fourth album? I don't remember.
That was the
I love these titles.
which one? Mondea.
The
I'm
one
not
that
even
had
sure if I'm pronouncing that
every
right.
breath you take and all that stuff.
That was what was that? That was
Because one of the things I've always admired about Sting is, and Sting can be very, very boring also. Like, if Sting comes out with an acoustic guitar and he's just gonna sit on a stool, it's fine. I mean, it's great stuff,
This
but
would be me right here.
Yeah, but it's yeah. I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom.
I'll just take my fast forward
That was
button.
from Synchronicity.
We gotta leave. Hold on.
Synchronicity
Synchronicity.
with Every Breath You Take. That was from Synchronicity.
Yeah, so that was like the one that really put them on the map as far as being a pop band. The
Yeah,
song about being a stalker, basically. Um,
yeah.
Don't stand,
yeah,
don't stand so.
So
So
yeah.
close to me.
I want my MTV.
I'm just
I
surprised that
want
he
my,
hasn't.
I want my, I want my
that's the
MTV.
way you do it.
I was surprised that he
Message
didn't
in
release
a
that song.
bottle.
Again, don't stand so close to me with all the pandemic stuff. But that would have
It's a
been
perfect song for right now.
would have been a huge hit, a re-release. Um, but he's one of those guys that I admire because he takes risks. He does album, he does some. Oh, this is what I was gonna mention. Paul Simon. Um, he's a guy that goes off to Africa and does this amazing Graceland album and wins all these awards. But the album is like completely him, but yet completely not him. You know what I mean? And he fused these two, his entity, whatever, or his essence, into these African rhythms and sounds. And he discovered all these amazing artists that have gone on and had amazing careers. Um, I love what he does. I love everything that he does because he does. I can tell that he doesn't care. And I think that's the overall element of all these artists that we're talking about. There's an element of the fact that they're gonna do what they want to do, and hopefully people would like it. And if they don't, they're still gonna do what they want to do, and that's what makes them, so unique to us and so authentic that we see like, okay, we love them. you know. So what do you think of Paul Simon, Joey? Because there was a lot of rhythm, a lot of drumming on that on those albums.
Yeah, man.
Polyrhythms, perhaps.
Yeah, Paul's a whole nother beast in the creative field, man. He's
Yeah,
just taking different inspirations from like different world cultures and combining them into one album, man. It's genius. Like even all the instruments that he used, like he used a lot of um like African percussion
yeah,
and all that. I think he used a lot of mallets too, like a lot of mallets percussion.
yeah,
Which is really interesting, especially for like the time that it came out in like the 80s. Like not a lot of people were coming out with that type of stuff.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, I don't think
and
anybody was.
yeah, and
Leave
I
it
think
for Ryan.
a lot of it was also reggae influence. So it sounded a bit like the Police too, but like more like African. So it was
Right.
kind of like his own flavor.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah. It
you
was.
want to check out something like also really interesting, if you've ever heard of the Rhythmatist, that's Stuart Copeland's own film. He actually travels to Africa and he studies the different rhythms of the different ancient tribes. But one of the things he does there is he goes inside a lion's cage and he plays a drum solo like with the lions like right in front of him. So it's
Well,
pretty badass.
nope.
It's pretty badass. But yeah, I think that was like in like 1980 something that he
He
did that.
went into a lion's
Wow.
cage and he played a drum solo on the lion.
Wow.
Wow, it was
Is it close enough actually? Like he was this
No,
close to
no
playing a drum
lions were
solo on the
harmed in this
lion.
production.
He was gonna
Warning,
become
no
that
lions.
drummer's.
He was gonna be like the old lady from Madagascar.
You're a bad kitty.
Bad kitty.
Wow.
like Joey
that's
said.
that's some crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, Paul Simon, he's he's a creative beast. Like just taking a look at all the different, like Joey said, all the different avenues and sounds that have gone into Paul Simon's unique sound. Like he could write a beautiful gospel song, like "Bridge Over Troubled Water," after hearing like one gospel group's performance of like a famous like gospel song, and then he writes his own, and
Yeah.
it's like me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Yeah.
Some good old Kodachrome goodness.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely he's very, very creative with what he wants to communicate, and it's not so serious, because when you listen to Bridge Over Troubled Water, you're just like, whoa, that's pretty deep, you know.
Whoa,
And
hold on a second.
then
Whoa.
Julio down by the schoolyard is kind of
Bone
like
Boys.
the opposite, or you know,
Just the different cultural influences that go into like programming what he's actually going to do, like as he approaches like composition.
right,
It's
exactly. Yeah, I mean
the
that to
most
me
receptive.
is the true artist. You know, that to me is the true artist, the guy who just is able to and you know, he wrote a lot of these incredible songs. Like he was like your guy's age. You know what I mean? Like he was like they were like
Yeah.
kids. You know,
Look
first they
out for
were
Rhyme
Tom and
Simon.
Jerry. Yeah. First they had a little group called Tom and Jerry, both of them. That's what they called themselves originally. And then they changed. I think they appeared on the Dick Clark show as Tom and Jerry, and they I don't remember what song they sang. They sang some song, and then shortly after that they decided to go with the more simpler names of Simon and Garfunkel.
Well, it is a very unique name.
They
That is
decided to go
not.
simpler. His when I used to work at this place, and his son used to, it was a health club, and his son would take swimming lessons at this health. His Art Garfunkel. His son looks exactly that. All big. He had the big orange hair. He'd come in, really, really good kid. But yeah, so he was Paul talks about this all the time, where he gave the song to Art, or Artie as he calls him, and he said, you know, you sing this, because I don't think he had any idea that it was going to be his most famous song, you know. And Art Garfunkel just killed it, you know, in the recording. Like, just, I mean, you could, I don't think vocally you can really match anybody with as far as a one vocal piece. You know what I mean? We're getting a little off topic, but that's all right. Um,
And Elvis covered it. That's how much he liked it. He
yeah, that's how
included
much he
Elvis.
liked it. Yeah, yeah. When Elvis covered your song, you know, your songs, he also covered
The James Taylor song, Steamroller Blues.
yeah.
Ah.
And there was another one I can't remember. He covered a lot. He covered some Neil Diamond. You know, he I think Sweet Caroline he covered. Um, yeah, Elvis was like another entity. You know what I mean? It was like worldly kind of thing. And I'm not saying that because I think he was talented. The guy didn't write anything. You know, he didn't. You know, he won 3 Grammys, all for gospel albums. You know what I mean? Like, not anything else. And you think about it, you're like, wait, what? You know,
He was
that's
the
like
first rock
ridiculous.
star, man.
Yeah, he's like the first rock star, you know. And but I just remember as a kid, my mom just really being and he went through all these changes, you know, and so my mom knew these changes before I was born. You know, my mom was she remembers him on Ed Sullivan, you know, for the first time. And she used to tell me that, you know, it was all over the papers and the news and the TV. Everybody was talking about this Elvis is going to be on the Ed Sullivan. Elvis. So she watched it. She remembers just screaming at the TV and my grandpa yelling at her. You know,
And fast forward, and then he's singing his own rendition of My Way.
right?
Shows his
Yeah, and then
versatility.
right, exactly. You know, My Way, an incredible, also another incredible song written by Paul Anka, and
Thanks
of
to my
course,
mom for texting that in. I just received a text from my mom saying,
oh,
"Talk about
cool.
My Way."
Oh, My Way. Yeah, My Way was one of those songs. I mean, it's really difficult for anybody really to cover My Way anymore. Elvis and Sinatra, you know, case closed.
What more do we have
Let's
to say
just
here?
shut the deal. No
What
one else can
more do
cover those
you
songs.
need? That's it.
I mean, there'll be artists that will cover it, obviously, but I don't think anybody
Probably won't
will.
top that.
It's just the most closely associated with those two. There, you can't.
Yeah,
It's their branding.
it
It's
totally is.
even if it's not their song. That's another thing. It's not their song, but they made it their song.
Yeah, had a little bit of a breakup. Did it break up on your side?
There's a little bit of break time on your end there, John. That I see.
Yeah.
Joey, can you do the dum?
Didn't.
Ah! Ah!
That just sounds.
Oh!
That just sounds like you're going through constipation or something.
That joke made me go through constipation, bro.
Just watch now. Joey goes to the bathroom and he writes the most beautiful song out of that
And it's
constipation.
called.
That's right. You're gonna hear the most beautiful melodies, man.
Ah!
That joke was just full of it.
Shit. Pun
That joke
intended.
needs an enema.
This joke needs an enema.
Okay.
So guys, let's talk about bands for a second. I wanna kind of talk about a band, and
B band,
you guys,
A
you know,
band.
and I always kind of like
Hey,
want to end the show by throwing stuff at you guys as a band. Um, where would you guys say your and I hate putting yourself into a genre, right? Because that's everybody's always like, well, what do you sound like? You know, and you always want to say like, well, we're kind of original. And
we're kind of an original band over here, man. I don't know about you, but
right. So what do you think your sound leans more towards modernly in the modern sound? Like if there was a band that you can say, we would probably in another year have, you know, whatever demo you guys are gonna have or recorded tracks gonna sound like this. Just don't say Maroon 5.
Maroon 5. No, okay.
And I didn't use the other band.
Oh! I can't forget. I gotta say, Nickelback. There we go. We kept our
A
streak.
recurring gag on the show.
We
Oh,
kept
I
our
didn't want to
streak.
go there. I didn't want to
We kept
go
our
there. I was
streak.
trying to keep it away from that.
We love you guys. We do love you guys, but we got to keep our streak.
Let me just say something. What we're
What if you guys end up sounding like Nickelback? What are you
what
gonna
we're
do
not
then?
gonna do is end up sounding like Nickelback.
Joey's getting progressively more constipated as this goes
Remember
along.
what you remember what
I
you
love you,
resist
Nickelback. I'm
persists.
the only one who loves you.
Hey, I never.
Chad, if you're watching this, I love you.
I never said I hated Nickelback. I'm just doing a recurring joke on them.
We always go into a riff about this.
We got to
It's
give
so
him a hard
sad.
time.
Thanks, TBT.
A riff. We're getting into a riff.
That's the second time we've gone into riff. Oh, man.
Any,
Oh my lord.
So
let's
so
see.
guys, I'm gonna do the cop out, and I'm going to deflect to you guys and see what you think our sound is going to be.
I mean, as far as like
As I think.
modern stuff goes,
Look at
I
this
don't know.
photograph.
I don't know if we're gonna necessarily sound like anybody of as of recently, but no, I'm not gonna say it. Never mind. Never mind. Somebody else do it. I'm not gonna say it.
Look at
I was
this
gonna,
Tommy, you're
photograph.
already in neck deep,
I
bro.
was gonna no, I was gonna relate to some old school band that we're inspired. Well, Sean and me are inspired.
Okay, I'll take the reins. I'm the band leader. I'll take the reins here. All right, let me go ahead. Okay, I'll say it. I have to say the things that cannot be said by any other band members, but I will do it because it's my job. Uh, so,
Say it.
so
Say it.
uh,
Yes, bro.
we are probably gonna sound like a compilation of a lot of. We definitely take influence from the 50s, the 60s, and the 80s. Specifically, the 80s revival of rockabilly. You're going to hear a little bit of the Stray Cats. You're going to hear a little bit of Roy Orbison. You're going to hear a bit of the Beatles. You're going to hear
a lot of bit of the Beatles, but okay.
you're going to hear a little bit of Elvis. You're going to hear a little bit of who else? Who else? Maybe some country in there. You're gonna hear some country. You're gonna hear some John Fogerty,
You're
some
probably
Carl
gonna hear
Perkins,
Tom Petty a little bit.
Tom Petty.
At
We
least
are
from-
definitely,
At least from me.
yeah. We aspire to find comfort in uncomfortability. So you can expect our sound to change quite a lot We plan to introduce a lot of different instrumentation and production techniques across uh, our changing albums. But with regards to our first album, we're definitely going to sound, if you like happiness and joy and bubblegum and just uh, just being happy go lucky for a change.
I can see Joey is thrilled.
Joey's like, oh God.
You definitely
Joey's
want
like
to enjoy that
happiness.
first album
What?
when it comes out
Hey,
because a lot of
listen, listen, listen.
a lot of joy and
In these
happiness
trying times, you need joy. Okay, let me just put
is
it that
going
way.
into
With all this
writing these
kryptonite,
songs. There's a lot of negativity in this world, and it's our job as
yeah, we can
entertainers
bring
to bring
joy in the world.
positivity, and that's one of my objectives with this first album,
Yeah.
To bring happiness and to bring what many view as like the golden age of music like back into the mainstream because there's a lot of music today is just it's just like I said before, it's assembly line. The same music
Yeah.
team across all the labels are making the same
It's like
songs, and they're like,
it's like, oh hey, I wrote a
"Oh,
new
depressing is selling right now, so I'm gonna write more depressing."
Right.
like hey,
Yeah, I mean, I do. I respect that. I think that that's actually a really good way of looking at it because, especially right now, I think there are the perception. Like I just deleted a bunch of a bunch of groups from my Instagram that I got involved with during my hip hop years when I was managing those
your hip.
guys, and I just happened to meet a lot of hip hop artists and and then it was like magazines. So I was like listening, Complex and Hip Hop 1987 and all these popular hip hop sites that I just got involved with, and I would just get their content all the time. And today I saw today I see like this video, and it was just a pool, a beautiful pool with just gorgeous girls laying on his stomach, with thongs on, and the camera just going panning over with like dum dum yeah yeah well yo and it annoyed me, because it was like how cliche and boring do you have to be? You got 50 girls.
It's just
You
like yeah,
hired 50 pretty girls, which I can get a room of 50 girls easily by putting an ad in the Craigslist and saying, we're going to give you $100 and food for the day.
and then we'll put
Wear
a
a
good
bikini
song on.
dance. They'll be like, hell yeah. You know what I mean? So easy, so cheap, so not original. And I just got so pissed off with it. I was just like, delete. And I just started, and then I went down the list of some of these other artists, and I do have some friends that I've met there. Like there's a guy named Young King that I met. He's awesome, and he's very very hip hop. Very not he's out there. You know what I mean? But he's also like legitimately sincere about it. And he's cool. I'm trying to see if I can get him on the show and stuff. I just have to put in a an explicit thing on the thing, but
Come on our show.
yeah, come on our show.
Well,
You're like, yeah,
actually,
mother.
not this show because we're trying to be kids friendly, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not over here, but the sincerity of it is just being so lost in these songs and these artists and stuff, and I think people are seeing it, maybe it's just my own. I'm naive about it, but and I know we veered off again, but no, not really. I think this is
it's a
how I
good
like to
point.
end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good point, and I think this is the point of this is the part of the show when we're ending
Sure.
off and what we want to kind of like go towards, and I think that sincerity is really what's needed right now, and I think a lot of artists are actually gonna be doing that, and it's gonna be more annoying to see the fake stuff. You know what I mean? We've seen so much fake stuff. Like there's a company where you can rent a plane, a private jet airplane, champagne, a car that drops you off. They film you coming out of the car, walking onto a private jet plane, sitting down, and the plane never takes off. It's just that's the service. And I think for like $500, they drive you. You dress nice. You come out. You have a red carpet. You walk onto your private plane, and you sit down and you get photos and stuff, eating and hanging out. on a private plane. That's like $500, and people are cranking them out. But when you see like 10 of them with the same plane and the same car and the same camera angles, you're like, wait a second. People are getting smarter, and they're getting smarter because they're understanding social media better. They know they can read between the lines a lot better now because they see like, how can he afford that? You know what I mean? He works. I know where he works. You know what I mean? I know, and it's getting much more transparent. Um, so when you come out with an album that's pure joy and and has to do with positivity, it's probably going to be at this time now. It's going to be very, very well received. I mean, it's going to be well received because all the other stuff is we've already seen it. We're sick of that already. It's give me a freaking break. I mean, how much anger do you
Break
have to? How
time.
much angry do you have to be? Yeah, give me a freaking break time. You know what I mean? It's like,
BreakTime covers jazz.
well, you can't say the word break at all near near Sean. He turns it into, hey, break time.
Because immediately goes BreakTime. Hey guys, next BreakTime.
Break time. So I think that's one of the good positive things about what you guys are doing. And your sound will change. You gave me a very safe answer, Sean. I'm gonna put you on the spot now. You basically tell me now that you're gonna sound like 14 different artists. Okay.
we're putting them all in one.
Roy Orbison, Elvis, the Beatles. I'm like,
Oh, and the Beach Boys. You're gonna hear some harmonies.
and the Beach Boys. Okay. You got to work on those
Very
harmonies.
specific aspects.
And
Yeah.
Beatles harmonies too. Don't forget.
We're very detailed. We are music historians.
You're gonna get very detailed. I'm pulling from this, from this, from this, from this, and putting it in a pot, and then sniffing it. All right. Well, break time. So that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let's discuss. I was gonna have tomorrow. Anybody watching, if you're still here,
Send John
email
an email.
me. There's a Judicki's cake for you.
We will get you a cake.
You will have your own Judicki's cake. And you know what?
I
I'm gonna
will
put your
take you out to
name on it.
Sorelli's.
Email,
I will pay.
email me your name, and I'm gonna have it icing put on your name, and I'm gonna hand deliver it to your house wearing a mask and gloves.
I will supply the lacrosse stick to make sure that is socially distant.
So what I was saying was tomorrow you can tune in. Doc Watson's gonna be here, David Watson, and he's played the who's who of amazing artists.
Thorns.
The police being one of them. Also
Wonder.
Alicia Keys. He did some arrangements for Stevie Wonder. Just a who's who of names. It's just really talented dude.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's a wonderful teacher. He's also been a teacher as well. So this is what he does. This is the guy. So anyway, he lives in Bayonne. To my surprise, when I first met him, and I was lucky enough to meet him at somewhere where a talent show that they asked me to be one of the judges, and he was another judge, and we started talking, and so we hit it off. We exchanged numbers and stuff. So I was really lucky to meet him, and he's going to be on the show tomorrow, so that's going to be really cool. And what I'd like to do, if tomorrow goes really well, I'll invite him onto our music makers show, and then really riff because he's got stories, that'll probably blow our minds. So
I've heard some of his stories. The last thing that Tommy and I did, one of the last things that Tommy and I did together, the last people that we went, the last artist we went to see was Doc Watson. He was playing
really?
at the starting, not the starting point. Where was he playing? Bayonne Patio Bar and Grill.
Yeah,
Bayonne Patio Bar and Grill.
Ah, nice. good spot.
He told some awesome stories. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to hear
Yeah,
some more.
that's awesome. Yeah, so that's tomorrow night at 9:30, and so and that's that on Thursday. George, you guys know George
George
Batista
Batista.
is going to be on Thursday. George is actually, a lot of people don't know, he's a drummer, but he's also a health nutritional guru guy. Knows a lot about health and fitness, and knows a lot about supplements and strengthening your immune system. And I'm trying to put like once a week somebody like that. I had one last 3 weeks in a row. I've had on it did just happen to land on Thursdays for some reason. So I figured let me just try to put them in on Thursdays, like when it's something different that's not film related or music related. So he'll be on Thursday, and then on Friday, I love Bayonne. And starting in June, I'm gonna announce it here. So if you're still watching, you're getting this information first.
Yes,
Um,
and if you're still watching, that offer still stands for
that offers
uh,
then
the dinner and the dinner at KP Sorelli's. You
dinner.
can take your chosen member of break time home with you, as long as you're within our age group.
Yeah, and
And not in the case of us being males, not a male.
And as long as you're a female.
and when you said in our age group, you can't include me because that's a very broad time. Broad. As
In
long as
break
you're in the
times.
group of break time.
Yes, yes. We are
So
single. Surprising.
if you haven't, if you still haven't retired from work, I'm right there for you. Okay, you can call me. If you still haven't retired from a job,
Oh,
you can still
don't tell
walk.
Pamela. Don't tell Pamela.
You gotta come. Somebody's gotta pay. So
Oh man.
what was I going with this? Oh yeah. So starting in
Special
June.
announcement.
Yes, special announcement. I'll announce this later on too, because I'm booked for May. Everything in May is booked already. So starting in June, I'm gonna start doing Monday through Friday.
Hey John, your signal kind of cut out.
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh. Hey YouTube.
Well, how are we gonna
You
solve
guys
this
do.
one, Scoob?
How you guys doing, YouTube?
I can't see the comments on the live stream, but God bless all of you for
I'm
watching.
gonna view the stream on YouTube.
Yeah. So Sean, how's the wife?
Imaginary still.
Same here, bro. Same. Yeah.
Anybody in the chat? It looks like nobody's in
Hello?
the chat. Hey
Hello?
John, you there?
Oh,
Oh
no.
wait.
We're
Hungry
still
Jump
live,
Joey is the host.
Okay, I guess
Ooh,
I'm the host. All right, guys.
Hey.
Welcome to
Welcome
Some
to
Good News, hosted by Hungry Jumper Joey.
Hey Joey, you
I'm
gonna
your
let
host, John Krasinski.
you gonna let John back in? Because
Let me see,
I'm
hold
sure
on.
he's gonna log back on because we're having some technical difficulties, guys. This is a live
Let me
show,
see,
and we
that's weird,
apologize
yeah.
to anybody currently on the stream that is experiencing this technical difficulty with us. But
Participants.
it's technology. What are you gonna do?
I have to wait until he sends a request. Hold on, yeah, so far he hasn't done anything yet.
We're really building the suspense up for this announcement.
This is now the break.
This was a perfectly timed technical problem for this announcement to build up the suspense and build up that cinematic nature of what John is going to say and put into the cultural zeitgeist of our space-time continuum in our history of parallel universes. Thank you. Have a good night. I've been Sean Manuel. You can buy my book on Amazon Prime.
And
Happy Tech Tuesday, everybody.
Happy Tech Tuesday.
Perfect timing.
If you haven't seen Tech Tuesday,
I'm watching. Uploaded one. I think you did. Right?
you should go
Oh snap!
follow
Yeah, I
us
actually gotta.
at BreakTime Live NJ. No spaces, no underscores, no umlauts, no backwards or forwards dashes,
No Goombas,
no squiggly lines,
no Goombas,
no accents,
no Bowsers, no Goombas.
no foreign characters, just at BreakTime Live NJ
And
across
if you
all
wanna see-
platforms.
and if you want to see some sick riffs, follow me, Tommy underscore the underscore music man
And we're here to give
on
you
Instagram.
a good time, because in this time of crisis, and even before this time of crisis, there's been a lot of strife and a lot of negativity around in the world. There's too much negativity. We need to bring some positivity. So if you are still watching this, follow us. You can DM us. We are that approachable. We are here for you guys. We are here to bring positivity to the cultural zeitgeist of our perpetual existence. Only perpetual because of parallel universes with their different storylines and life essence. Guys, you got anything else?
Nah, man. I think you said it all.
Premium content. Premium
I think you
content.
said it all, man. Yeah. Hopefully, John comes back on here.
Yeah, John, you there, bro? If you're
If
here,
not,
you can
yeah,
send me a text over
probably
message.
gonna.
You'll have to wait.
I mean, that was a pretty solid ending by you, Sean. So
We're here for the announcement, bro.
yeah,
John doesn't come back, you're probably gonna have to wait till tomorrow to hear the announcement.
yeah, or probably on Facebook or something.
Or yeah,
Just-
probably on Facebook.
Yeah.
However.
Hey Joey, you want to advertise your YouTube and your account, because you didn't yet.
Well, yeah. If you guys haven't already heard, it's Hungry Drummer Joey.
He's hungry, and
Yes,
he'll drum for you.
that is with one
Right
Y.
now.
Joey. Hungry for success with these boys. And yeah. Representing the cultural zeitgeist of the 21st century, entering the complete, ultimate second decade of horror that this coronavirus awaits.
So, I got a question for those who are probably still watching this. Do any of you like Nickelback?
Hey mom, do you like
All right,
Nickelback?
boys, I gotta head out, so I'll see ya.
So I guess I'm gonna be the host then, or maybe Tommy. We'll see how the shoot drops.
You have to bear with me. I don't know how Zoom works.
John.
John is the host. Okay. Phew. I was gonna say if it's then, yeah, it's not gonna.
Hey John, I sent you an email inviting you to this meeting.
You have him on the phone?
No, I don't have him on the phone. No.
Oh, what was that?
I hope his power didn't go out, or his router or something.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
Because,
I don't know where I am, so I don't know.
well,
then again, oh wait, yeah, it probably would go out if the power did go out, because the Wi-Fi would go out and then the camera would probably. Okay.
great
Never mind.
reasoning, Tommy.
No, I'm gonna use my brain.
Oh, apparently there was a system crash. According to John, whoever is watching, there has been a system crash at John's place of residence.
We're not gonna tell you where.
Now, my mom says that her favorite riff of all time that you've played on your channel, Tommy the Music Man, on Instagram, was Barracuda.
Was that? I think that was when I did the. I don't think I did like the riff by itself yet, but I think I did it for. I think I did it for a Telly Tuesday video that we. No, either Telly Tuesday or no. Not Telly Tuesday, Telly Tone Tuesday, or it was one of the Tech Tuesdays we did. But I'm pretty sure it was Telly Tuesday, the Telly Tone Tuesday, excuse me, which we still have yet to finish. We still got 2 more effects to go through. So if you want to see the rest of that, Be patient because it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, yes, because uh, Tommy's equipment, with the exception of his guitars.
Is all at Sean's
Hey,
house.
hey,
Hey,
John.
long time no
Wow,
see.
you guys are still there? How did that
Yes, we
work?
would understand.
I
Did
don't
you
know.
guys just
Joey was made the host, and then I was made the host.
really?
We kept going.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Apparently.
That's bizarre. So I don't even know what happened. That kind of freaked me out because that's never happened before. So now I need to troubleshoot this because
Well,
can't
well,
happen tomorrow.
Sorry,
I don't
folks.
want that.
And hopefully, will not happen again.
So it says
well,
live on YouTube again.
yeah, we're still live. We've still been live. Yeah, we've been entertaining the masses.
Hopefully, if it was still going, I don't know.
I was talking about the cultural zeitgeist of our space-time continuum.
Nice, nice.
And we
Joy,
were
Joy,
advertising
Joy
ourselves.
fell asleep.
Yeah, Joey has to do a final project or something. But
Cool.
yeah, he was host for a little bit and
And then Sean was.
did some advertising.
I'm glad that if that happens, that it does stay on. So, learning every day. So, what I was gonna announce, since we're still on YouTube, if you're watching,
If this is still live.
yeah,
Even though it says
I
it
don't know
is,
who
if
would
you're still live.
So basically, what I'm planning is to change up um, the schedule.
Gonna say, you all right there, Sean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna change up the schedule where I have Monday to Fridays at 9:30, and then on Saturday and Sunday I'll just do that for like maybe special stuff that comes up. Somebody wants to do like a special thing, maybe I'll do something. But
Special.
yeah, because right now it's
Real
6 days, and but what I'm gonna do for the rest of May is I'm gonna do the Bayonne update at 8 o'clock.
Ooh.
Oh wait, no, what am I saying? For June, for the rest of May, I'm gonna stay the same. For all of June, 8 o'clock, I'm gonna do the update, and then 9:30 live with whatever guest is going. So, all right. So I need to go figure out why the hell this thing crashed.
Yeah.
If you're entertained by this, then
Then you're
there's a
good
dinner at
John,
Sorelli's.
send John an email.
If you're entertained
Send me an email at johnhenrysoto@gmail.com.
If you're entertained by this, then you're a human being.
Sorelli's dinner with one of the break time of your choice, and a nice cake with engraved with your name, hand delivered from
Saying
Didicki's.
thank you for
I
supporting.
guess I should stop now. Oh Lord. Hold on a second. I'm gonna leave YouTube. All right, everyone.
All right,
Take
thank
care of
you, YouTube.
yourselves. See y'all very soon. Oh, I can't even leave YouTube. I'm not even a host anymore.
All right.
Been fired.
All right. Thank you, YouTube. I, as the current host, will take us off right now in 3, 2, 1.